I just couldn't resist using that intro. Well, good morning. I guess it's good afternoon for some people around the world, and good morning for other people around the world, especially late morning in Australia today, mate. And welcome to our Financial Friday. I used our Money Masters intro. You noticed?
I love it. I love that
intro.
Oh my gosh!
I know. I had to use it because I was beaming around looking for which intro. But the other one we use all the time, so I couldn't forget that.
But we've not used that in so long. Nick and I used to travel so much and do interviews, even at Campbell University this time of year. We would be down at Campbell University, and I just miss that. Thank you, Nick.
It's a great little intro. So, welcome to Financial Friday. Hi, I'm Nick Palavita. I am the adjunct professor for the graduate tax program at Northeastern University, even though I've been a trader today because I brought my Duke cup, but because I live in the Research Triangle Park of Raleigh-Durham. With us, we have Kim Calhoun, who's also a senior producer at IBM TV and also sits on the board of the computer science department at North Carolina State. I wonder if these people get along at the ACC. I don't know.
I know.
but our special guest today is Thomas Shulman. And Thomas, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you do? That's a mouthful, but who are you and where are you from and what do you do?
Well, first of all, good morning from Los Angeles, Nick and Kimberly. My name is Thomas Schumann. I'm originally from Frankfurt, Germany. I was born and raised there. I came to the US 26 years ago. And I work on the intersection of sustainable investment, water security. My goal, mission, and calling in life is to advance a water secure world. What does that mean? We have 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. One is water, sustainable management of water, and that's UN Sustainable Development Goal number 6. And I am focusing my efforts and my mission and my solutions on helping global capital markets not only to be aware and embrace financial water risk, but also to reorient capital flows to create a more water secure world.
Yeah, and I found that to be interesting because some people will go, wait a minute, how can somebody who's running, because we have a lot of people that are on our show, especially on Economics Monday, that run venture capital funds, investment funds, et cetera, but their mission is to maximize profits. How can they maximize profit and have to even be concerned about what goes on with water around the world?
Okay, well, again, I'm from Europe, and Europe historically always has embraced social and environmental responsibility, which doesn't mean not to focus on profits. So what's happening in Europe now at the moment, and it's been going on for decades already, but it's really culminating now in the light of the Paris Agreement and other climate change efforts and activities. There has been regulation introduced by the European Union for investors and markets to include sustainability, sustainable finance, responsible investing into investment decisions. So I'm obviously a little bit biased and prejudiced when it comes to that, but fortunately, this momentum and this global movement is happening now here also in the US. And basically, the future, that's not from me, but it's Richard Sender, the financial revolution at the moment that's happening is the convergence of the environment, financial markets. What does that mean? That means that that we have to make sure that we take good care of people and planet and also profit. It's also called the triple bottom line, and it's not. I wouldn't say it's not to negate capitalism, but to really drive forward a world that is more inclusive, more equitable, and also transitions away from shareholder capitalism to stakeholder capitalism.
Mm-hmm. With us, Sharif has just joined us, our PhD scholar from Malaysia. Sharif, welcome to the show. I was talking about your country on the previous show that we beamed in from, which was Med Center Friday. We had 4 doctors, and I was telling them how Malaysia is controlling the coronavirus. But Thomas works in the area of sustainability with water as basically a corporate responsibility. What does Malaysia do about it, or just look at the ocean out there? Hey, there's plenty of water. You guys just don't even worry about it. So what is the policies over in Malaysia like?
Yes, for water treatment and this kind of things, Malaysia is still working. But I want to say for drinking water, especially Singapore, I think they are buying their water from Malaysia. And Malaysia actually still they are improving. For drinking water, I want to say that they have a lot of chance to improve water treatment and this kind of projects. But what I'm observing from USA, even from India and different kind of countries, they are trying to engage with this kind of business in Malaysia. And Malaysian government taking a lot of initiative for pure drinking water and other things, but I believe that they have a lot of chance to improve. So definitely we have our expert panelist here, so hopefully we can get some sort of guideline for Malaysia. But water treatment is a very, very interesting and important topic for.
Yeah.
And Thomas, I have a question for Thomas, though. Something you really just like, I don't know. You said you're from Germany. How did you get here? And water, of all things, I mean, water is very important. It is a great investment, but how did you get here?
Well, Kimberly, that's a long story. I think we might have to do another segment. But in a nutshell, I got here on a Lufthansa airplane, a 747, Boeing 747. I used to be a flight attendant at the tender age of 19 after I finished the German Air Force as a private first class. And so became a flight attendant, and one of my first destinations was Los Angeles, and I fell in love with Santa Monica. We had our crew hotel here. Back then, Santa Monica was a very sleepy beach community, and then I also started my first business, which also had something to do already with sustainability. I came across used 501 Levi jeans, and they were retailing in some vintage stores in Los Angeles for $5, and they were retailing in Frankfurt in Germany as a hot fashion item for $100. So that became my first. And that prompted me to commute for more than 10 years between Frankfurt and Los Angeles on a monthly basis, 5 years as an international flight attendant. And then I did that business full time. And then eventually I had some life changes, and I was able to realize my dream to leave Germany and to immigrate to the US, and made Santa Monica my new birthplace.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Home place, obviously. Home place.
Yeah, we're supposed to actually be filming, or we may be filming the Global Sustainability Conference on September 28th to 30th. Are you familiar with that at all?
The Global Sustainability Conference.
Yeah.
Yes, there are many conferences now, and since the UN is headquartered in New York, I think from the UN or around the UN, there are a lot of conferences hosted. I don't know if this specific conference is hosted by the UN, but again, it's a very interesting time also because of COVID, and the World Economic Forum basically terms COVID as the Great Reset, as the unique chance for humanity and society to reshape and reset the ways we do business, the ways we live, and to basically transition and transform ourselves and our society to a more sustainable, more equitable, more just world. So there are a lot of these conferences around now, and it's a very, very fast movement and creates a lot of momentum. And I'm very, very happy to see that we are, heading in the right direction despite the pandemic and despite a lot of challenges that face the globe and also our country. But I see the silver lining. There's a lot of hope, and I personally see COVID as a major opportunity, and that's how I also been reshaping my own life.
Well, you saw Levi's as a major opportunity, and I wish I had done that. I mean, you seem to take these opportunities, like you became a flight attendant. I mean, that was brilliant. That's great job security. You're traveling around the world. You're able to learn all the different things that go on in every part of the world at someone else's expense. So that was brilliant. So no doubt you've got some training somewhere. Someone's coached you or taught you to take some of these opportunities and think about how you use them. But how did you get from Levi's, or do you still deal in Levi's, into now water and maybe other sustainable products or sustainable economic situations?
Again, I have to make a long story short. Thank you very much for the kudos, Kimberly. Yes, I've been leveraging other resources, but I also feel now I'm 55 years old, and I came to a conclusion in my life that I need to give back, and I want to build a legacy. And while I'm building a legacy, I think there's nothing wrong also to create profit and value for others in the process of it. So it was a very long journey. It was also a spiritual journey, and I had some other stations on the journey to get where I am. So after the Levi's business was good for 10 years, and then all of a sudden, all these major denim manufacturers realized they had new methodologies and new formulas to basically make new jeans look old. So then the whole Levi's trend faded. It was a global trend. There were people coming from all over Japan and Asia to buy these jeans here, used jeans, at a low cost, and then sell them as a fashion item in their respective countries. So after I came here, I did some other ventures in the apparel industry, and then I became a banker, a commercial banker. There was an opportunity, and I jumped on it. It was a new banking division. They're looking for bankers who've signed the front of a paycheck. So again, a very innovative model. They wanted to have basically entrepreneurs who could relate to other business owners and entrepreneurs, while selling money, while selling loans. So I did that for a while, and that was very interesting too, because I think as an entrepreneur, it's also important to see the other side, the other perspective of the money table, the bank, why the bank is very risk averse, why the bank has certain regulations. So that helped me too in terms of my financial acumen and entrepreneurial talents. I did that for almost 2 years, and then corporate America was not really what I was looking for. And then I said, okay, I need to venture out again. But unfortunately, I took a road that wasn't really aligned with my values and who I was. And I remotely went back to Germany, and I started actually a tobacco company. Don't ask me why. I never smoked in my life. I'm a health enthusiast. I'm a master's runner. But I saw an opportunity, and that venture kind of succeeded. We basically designed a new cigarette brand from scratch. It was an international value brand. We got it into the market. The global tobacco industry has very high barriers of entry. It's ruled by the Philip Morrises and the Japan Tobacco Internationals and British American tobaccos of the world. But we got the brand into the market. It eventually didn't succeed because we had to create our own had to acquire our own cigarette factory. It was very difficult to raise money in around 2008, 2009, specifically for Vice Ventures. So that venture eventually failed, and came along also with some personal failure, and that made me realize that I need to do something with my life that is purpose-driven, that fulfills me, that satisfies me, and creates value in the world. And then water came about, and I can highly identify with water. I fell in love with water, and that's in 2011 I entered the water industry, first on the bottled water side. Then I have water technology companies as well as large desalination projects. And then I realized that we have a big challenge in the world because nearly a third of the world is subject to water stress. And then I had a further realization that I think the biggest opportunity to create not only social, environmental, but financial impact is to create solutions for global asset managers, investors, wealth managers, and also corporates to see not water being the single largest risk and threat to people, planet, and profit, but also as an investment opportunity for long-term prosperity, capital appreciation, and sustainable alpha. And that's why I basically ended up and created now the first product, which is a European index. We're coming out now with the US index in 2 weeks that most likely will outperform the S&P 500. And hopefully out of that, further products such as exchange-traded funds, derivatives, options, futures, and other financial instruments will develop in order to drive forward a more water-secure world, while also rewarding investors with long-term sustainable alpha.
Wow.
And you said that 1/3 of the world suffers from water stress. Is it that big, really?
Yeah, it is. And, as climate change exacerbates droughts and flooding, we have population growth, which fuels ever-growing demand for water. The world, the single biggest user of water in the world is animal agriculture. And as emerging markets become more prosperous, they have an almost voracious appetite for obviously meat. Meat requires a lot of water consumption. I think one hamburger, I don't want to say anything wrong, but I think one hamburger uses almost in the neighborhood of 100 gallons from the production of the meat until you have it on your plate. So it's just no longer sustainable. And it's a major issue, and it's slowly surfacing kind of like in the shadows of climate change. But it's much more critical than climate change, and investors starting to use water risk as a proxy for climate risk. Climate risk is very intangible. It's very difficult to measure, to also integrate into investment decisions. You can obviously have, there are new metrics out there and new frameworks to keep the world under 2 Celsius and to lower the carbon emissions footprint. But water is so essential. I mean, 5 days without water, you and I die. There's no business in the world that can operate without water. So
I want to bring up another topic with you now that we're talking about water and the danger that it's in. Is the coral reefs have been dying, and the coral reefs is what keeps our water fresh, clean, feeds the nutrients into the ocean, right? So, are there some things that you do? That's going to be one question, but also the when you talked about how much a cow can consume or cattle consume, one tree can consume 100 gallons a day, and that's a lot of water from the water table. Yes. And so, how are we balancing that and the coral reefs, protecting our coral reefs?
I mean, what I'm focusing on it doesn't even have to do anything with oceans. So UN Sustainable Development Goal number 6 is basically spells out to provide clean access to water and sanitation. Ocean is a different goal. I would have to look it up, but it's a different goal. So these are huge challenges that they require Herculean efforts. Obviously, they're all inextricably linked. And yes, I mean, ocean health is a big issue, but there's only so much I can do. And I hope through my efforts and I hope through the success that result from what I'm doing, I can overall move the needle a little bit and raise the awareness. So it's really all about awareness. We need to be aware that the ways we've been doing business, that the ways we lived our lives are not sustainable anymore. And there's not much time left.
Yes, joining us from
there's not much time left.
Yeah, joining us from Canada through from Russia to Canada, from Russia with Love now in Canada is Alexander Starr, who heads up our Just Stars. Also, Investment with Sasha on Wednesday, where he does a lot of individual investing. We're talking to Thomas Schumann, who actually talks about water and sustainability as part of the investment equation. But Sasha, do you ever, when you look at stocks, do you ever look at the corporation and whether or not their policies on water make any sense?
To tell you the truth, no. But I'm aware that there are a lot of funds that are doing ecologically viable investments. And what I've noticed is that these funds generally are doing quite well. Of course, to have viability as an investment vehicle, they are looking at several other position and characteristics of individual company, but it's very interesting that others they acquire substantial investments from individual investors as well as institutional investors. So by pure implosion of attracted capital, they may do so well simply because when you have a huge inflows of capital, these funds may do quite well just because of that factor. So you cannot dismiss it. So but you see, my investments are mostly concentrated on individual stocks, which in my opinion may do better than S&P 500 and so on. So right now I'm holding substantial positions in Microsoft. Now, is Microsoft ecologically friendly company? Do they have anything to do with clean water, for example, or so on? I'm not so sure. Probably they're neutral. Probably that's the best way to put it. And of course, if you are looking at Altria, they're probably not ecologically friendly company because they're producing cigarettes. And actually, I've collected dividends on Altria and I sold it, not because of ecological reasons, some other reasons, but ecological probably just as well. I felt kind of awful by holding unfriendly ecological companies such as Altria, but they're very well run, paying huge dividends, so it was hard to part. So whenever his next dividend is coming, maybe I'll jump in again just to collect the dividend.
Yeah, but also being from Russia and Canada, there's plenty of water there. It doesn't seem to me that those two countries are stressed in water. Russia, you got plenty of land, plenty of water. Canada, as I flew north over the Northwest Territories, there were lakes and rivers. I mean, everywhere. Water was
Everywhere.
not. Yeah, water was not.
Even here in Ontario, just about an hour away from Toronto, up north, if you're.
Yeah, but Thomas says
lake after lake.
Yeah, so the thing is, the issue may not be it, but Thomas was saying that 1/3 of the world is watered stress. What areas of the world are you looking at that are water stress? I know it's not going to be Canada and Russia.
Well, there are theories that the water will become the hottest commodity in the next 50 years. It will be more valuable commodities than anything like coal.
Then gold, your favorite
gold.
investment.
It could be just as well, because you cannot drink a lot of gold. I mean, it's not good for your health.
You can't drink gold. I have a question for everyone. It's a trick. Well, it's not a trick question. What is the world's largest river? Where is it? The world's largest. No cheating.
Mississippi, probably.
Nope. Well, go ahead. Keep going. Everybody gets a take.
You mean it's not the Amazon?
Keep going.
I would go either for the Yangtze or for the Ganges.
I think Yangtze number 3. I think first 2 places.
The Everglades.
I think Ganga.
So I got a surprise for all of you. It's called the River in the Sky.
Sorry?
It is called the River in the Sky, and it is the world's largest river, and it's above the Amazon. And so it's clouds that are above the Amazon is considered the world's largest river.
Interesting. Wow.
And a lot of people are not aware of that. And that's why we have to take very good care of the Amazon. Of course, the Amazon River itself is considered the second largest. Mm-hmm. But if you take a look at when they call it the world, it is above, it's called the River in the Sky. So go do your homework on that. It's a beautiful story of how they discovered this and considered and named it that. It's just one of my, healthy water is one of my fascinations. So
which means, I'll translate, we don't drink the water that comes from our cities in the United States. Okay.
I drink the clear water from my well because it's tested and considered the healthiest water in the state. So my well gets tested occasionally and they still come to me and say, you've still got the healthiest water in the state. So I've been drinking well water for 40 years. So it's
Toronto is considered to be also very safe and very clean water. I drink it every day without any hesitation. Hopefully it will stay the same way for the near future.
Mm-hmm.
So Thomas, let's talk about some of the sustainability with the water resources that you're working with there in the Santa Monica, right?
Yeah, I just left Santa Monica after 25 years. I'm living now in the city of Los Angeles.
Oh, Los Angeles. Okay, so you moved over. So, okay. So what are some of the key elements in LA that you're working on? Because that's a big issue in the LA area.
It is. Actually, California has the largest metropolitan water system in the world. A lot of people don't know that. And Los Angeles, the Metropolitan Water District in Los Angeles is the single largest water district in the world. I do not work directly with water utilities or water districts. The solution I created was in collaboration with some leading fintech companies around the world, and they have cutting edge data on physical assets which are exposed to water. They work with proprietary methodologies, algorithms, machine learning tools, digital platforms. And out of that, we created a solution where we look at specific equities, publicly traded equities, be it IBM, be it Coca-Cola, be it other stocks, and we look on how they manage water, if they even have good water management, water stewardship policies in place. And out of that, we're basically arriving at you can say a score or rating. And you have companies, which are winners, and they most likely will be winners for the years and decades to come, those that manage water well, and you have losers that mismanage water. That basically translates into a financial metric that obviously you want to invest in companies who have good water management practices, who have low reputational risk, who have higher capital appreciation potential, and who have other features in terms of the sustainable world where we're moving towards, rather than companies who are specifically coal and mining, who are doing fracking, drilling, who are doing investment practices, operational practices which are not sustainable. So I'm only looking at the capital equity markets. I'm not going all the way down basically to the watershed.
Okay.
Where the water is being distributed.
Yeah, but
You gotta fund it. You gotta fund it somehow. I think what you're doing is brilliant, because somebody's got to work that area. I mean, you got to mine, right? You gotta,
I'm trying to work from top to bottom, which, it's a Herculean task, but luckily we're in times now where investors wake up to water risk and climate risk. And, the big term at the moment is ESG, environmental social governance. And around that, a lot of new themes are developing, which are becoming in Europe already mandatory. In the US, unfortunately, at the moment, the Department of Labor is very resisting against having pension funds and other fiduciaries implement investment mandates and practices which also benefit people and the environment. But eventually, I think that will give.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but doesn't Los Angeles, like since Alexander lived in Russia and Canada, they don't seem to have a big water issue. But if you're in Los Angeles, I mean, that's a cement desert. You fly over a desert, and you know what they did is they when I fly over that, I go, do they have any green space at all? I mean, every block is taken with some cement building. So when you think that LA, the place that you're residing in, does have water issues, because frankly, it's really a desert covered over by the cement.
It is. And again, we had I think in 2015, we had the big drought. Luckily, we were blessed with rain. There were also some very strict mandates that Governor Jerry Brown put into place. So we had, wasn't water rationing, but there were incentives here too. If you transform your lawns, your yards into drought-resistant areas, you would get financial incentives. So there's been a lot of things done here. At the moment, I think we're fortunate with the water supply. But again, I think it's more so, it's not a geographic issue. I think it's a human issue. It's an issue of the mind. It's a behavioral issue. And as Benjamin Franklin said more than 200 years ago in 1776, we know the value of water once the well runs dry. So you really only appreciate water when you have no access to it, right? You only drink when you're thirsty. So it's a behavioral issue.
Yeah. So what made you fall in love with the LA basin? What's the besides the climate? What's the unique selling proposition of Los Angeles area?
Well, it was for 25 years Santa Monica, and I loved Santa Monica because it was close to the ocean. It's very sustainable. It's a very sustainable city. The whole scooter movement was actually launched in Santa Monica and old Santa Monica. And it's a very active, positive lifestyle, which is focused on fitness, health, and wellness. That's kind of like, these were the drawing points, being a runner, being a triathlete, with Santa Monica. That's kind of like what got me there. And then also, obviously, the freedom. If you come from Germany, it's a beautiful, wonderful country, but we have 80 million people, and they're all clustered in on a fraction of, I think, the state of Texas. So it was just becoming too small for me. Physically as well as mentally. So it was always a dream for me to come to California, and eventually I was able to materialize it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, obviously that would make sense. You're right that it would be a lot less dense than Germany, from that standpoint. So what are your plans going forward? Because I know that IBM TV, we're looking to film, oh gosh, we've got all these things coming up, some events. One of them is World Peace Day, September 25th. I just found that out. One of our directors gave it. The other is Global Sustainability Week. It looks like it's the 28th through the 30th of September. So what are your plans going forward? What's your mission objectives? What's your plans going forward with this water?
Well, again, it's all focused on solutions. You need, it's good to have a great narrative, but you need to have the performance. So the European index that we launched in European capital markets outperforms the current European benchmark, the Stoxx Euro 50, by 15 percentage points from 2010 to present. So the next product, which is obviously the more important product, is the US product, the US Water Risk Index, which finalizes in 2 weeks, and it looks like it will outperform the S&P 500. So the key thing is basically to get these products and the narrative not only out into the media, but also into capital markets, to have investors embrace the strategy, put money into the strategy, and see that the strategy performs. And then overall, obviously, my mission is to advance water security, sustainability. So I would be very honored if you maybe invite me back to your global sustainability forum, and I would also be able to bring some experts in that space, global experts.
Wow. Yeah.
Who could speak on other topics as well. It's a very critical movement, and as Alexander says, even his generation considers now, am I really 100% aligned with my investment decisions? Where do I invest in? And let me lastly say that we're at the moment at the verge of the largest wealth transfer in human history, which is in the US. It's approximately $30 trillion, which are being handed over from the baby boomers to the generation X and Y and Z. And these millennials, the so-called millennials, they all are interested in doing well by doing good to align their investment and consumption choices with sustainability, with their values, with their convictions. So this will be the future, and we've seen that already. We've seen that also with the BLM movement. Corporates will be held accountable for their actions and for their operational decisions, and it will be not only a new trend, but sustainability will be mainstream very, very soon.
Thomas, may I ask you a question? You just mentioned Yangtze River as the third largest in the world, and I agree with you. Have you ever heard about the Stansberry Report? I'm subscribing to, a few financial publications.
I believe so. I believe so, but I cannot further comment, and I would have to look it up again. But I think it came across my desk during my research.
Okay, yesterday I've got absolutely astonishing information from Stansberry Report. They are talking about the Three Gorges Dam. If you heard about that, it is in central China. Sits on the Yangtze River, stretching 3,900 miles. And the dam is 5 times bigger than the Hoover Dam in Nevada.
Wow.
Spanning 7,700 feet within a height of more than 600 feet. It's also the world's largest hydroelectric power plant. The reservoir behind the dam holds 42 billion tons of water. When the dam is full, it's so much water that its concentrated weight slows the Earth's rotation by 0.06 microseconds. And now
that's pretty impressive.
That's not what I wanted to tell you.
Right, but it's still impressive. If you can actually slow the Earth's rotation, I'm impressed. Okay, go on.
The heavy rain has caused the Yangtze River to swell, with water rising 6 feet above the Three Gorges Dam warning level in July. The enormous weight of the water behind the dam has already caused landslides along the reservoir. Experts outside of China have closely tracked the situation. Satellite images, even before the recent weeks of continuous rain, seemed to show that the dam had been bent slightly. The Chinese government downplayed the situation at first, saying that issue was with the satellite images, not with the dam. But now, officials have started to acknowledge the problem. Now, what's happened is that it would be truly devastating if the Three Gorges Dam were collapsed. Tens of millions of people live downstream from the dam along the Yangtze River, including the large population in Wuhan and Shanghai. That's right, the same Wuhan that's believed to be there where the global COVID-19 pandemic began. If the dam fails, hundreds of thousands of people will likely die, and millions more will probably see their homes washed away. The consequences of that happened are astronomical proportion. Yet I was surprised that I've learned about it only yesterday, and nobody ever pays any attention to that. That could be enormous catastrophe.
Yes.
So are you familiar with the situation and how it would?
No, I have not heard about that. But there are obviously other issues, like even in the US. I think we even had an issue with a dam here in California. Yes, there are major consequences when these dams break. And
So that's something too. I think when we do sustainability is we need to take a look at some of these things that we do to alter the Earth's ecosystem,
Yes.
right? Because it's not always, even though we go, oh, this is going to bring water here, or is it's going to pour water here, is we need to be very careful of that, because we there's too many risks involved. There's got to be some better ways that we can do some of these things without putting somebody's lives at risk. And I often wondered what were the ulterior motives behind doing a lot of these dams. And I mean, I don't know. I used to ask myself, who would build their home at that, at the after point of a dam? I just never could understand that. And or why people would do that. That they're, at least build it on the upper side. Or
maybe they built their home and the dam came afterwards.
Yes.
That happens quite often.
That could have happened too. I mean, I've seen towns, in Texas, they're pretty big about doing a lot of dams and rerouting the water. But I think sometimes we need to think a little bit smarter than that, because the Earth she's perfect. We're the ones who keep altering her to be for our needs.
Correct.
The Earth is already perfect. We should be altering ourselves.
I agree.
Yeah, but when we're looking at water and places under stress, isn't it more of an allocation issue? For example, where Alexander's from, there's Lake Baikal, which is a huge freshwater lake, has more fresh water than all the Great Lakes in the United States combined. The problem is it's in the middle of bloody Russia. No one lives there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, don't we have
a very interesting fact that great Genghis Khan was born 8 kilometers from Baikal. So the latest Russian history now considers Genghis Khan to be Russian of Mongolian descent, but still. So the greatest Genghis Khan was born on Russian territory.
Yeah, okay. But the thing is, you got this beautiful lake,
yes,
Sasha, but it's in the middle of bloody nowhere. It's like if it was right next door to California, then people would go, what freshwater problem? We've got tons of water. But unfortunately, all I have in LA is dried up riverbeds, it seems like. Sure. And then fake seas that they make every now and then. Sure. What is the Sagacio Sea, whatever it is. Anyway, it's a fake sea out there. But don't we really just have an allocation issue? Like even in Greenland, if we melt all the ice in Greenland, which looks like global warming's doing, that there's plenty of water. It's just allocated improperly to where people live.
Sure.
And Trump was right. He was about to buy Greenland. I don't know what stopped him.
Wait. We're still considering buying Greenland, and we got rid of the Paris Accord. So we don't really care about environmental sustainability, but we're interested in purchasing Greenland. But don't we just have an allocation issue?
We do, but please be aware that water is very difficult to transport. Water is always local. So you have to use responsibility, at the location where you are. Another situation in California is that the Central Valley, which is called the fruit and vegetable basket of America, has depleted the aquifers. So as a result, houses sink, streets sink, bridges sink. So again, it's the lack of responsibility and proper behavior. That's really the problem we're dealing with. We have to point the finger first at ourselves. And then you have another issue, which is the pricing issue. As long as water doesn't cost much, people just unfortunately don't appreciate it. So it's really, the problem is with us. And we have to start, in our house, in our home, to become more responsible, more aware, more mindful. And then, hopefully, society can change at a large. We also have big infrastructure problems in the US in terms of, water. I think the Association of American Engineers projects that I think there is a deficit of, almost $1 trillion in terms of water infrastructure in the US. How can that be in the wealthiest, richest nation in the world? How can that be? How can it be that, people still drink toxic water in Flint, that some communities have had no access to clean water, even in California now for 3 years? There's been bottled water trucked in. So this is all, it's a systemic failure as well.
Yeah, so it's just it definitely is a problem here, but also we don't like spending trillions of dollars on water, which we look to be a fungible good as opposed to something that we have to spend a lot of money. So tell me a little bit about the fund. Do you manage a fund that does sustainability? Do you have an index fund or?
No, at the moment I have two strategies. It's a European strategy, US strategy. We're going to add an Asian strategy. These are indices. These are indices you can invest in, and they're being currently hosted on a platform in London where investors can directly invest in the strategy. The next step is to find aligned strategic partners, large asset managers who are interested in issuing a fund tracking the indices. In the indices. So at the moment, there is no fund in place. We're working on that. I'm in talks with qualified parties, and obviously, create a fund and then invest in companies who are good water stewards. We're going to probably do a little bit reweighting. We're going to, I don't want to say we're going to short water wasters, but obviously reward companies that demonstrate good watership, and then hopefully attract global capital flows into that fund. And then turn that fund into an activist fund. Because once you obviously have, Alexander probably can attest to that, once you have certain stakes and certain leverage in companies, you can become an activist and drive, the boards and the management to make better decisions on the corporate level in terms of water stewardship.
Mm-hmm. Are there any social responsible funds out there right now for people to invest in?
Yeah, there are many, specifically out of Europe, and again. Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, he sent a letter to shareholders and CEOs at the beginning of the year, and he basically confirms, the same perspective and vision I have. So there are more products coming into the market. It usually takes some time as well, and then obviously it's a regulatory issue as well. If regulators kind of like enforce or inspire the development of new products, this whole movement will speed up. But there are many sustainable and responsible investment funds out there, and if you look at their performance, they have done in most cases historically better than their traditional funds. And if you go all the way back in terms of responsible investing, sustainable finance, it started it had biblical origins, and it's now been evolving to the UN Sustainable Development Goals and that whole responsible investment, sustainable finance movement that we're experiencing. It's the evolution of finance.
Right. Yes. And for those who just joined us, we're at IBM TV's Financial Friday. With us, we have Kim Calhoun, who is from a director at IBM TV. Also, she sits on the board of computer science at North Carolina State University in the Raleigh-Durham area. Thomas Schumann from Frankfurt, Germany, now lives in the United States of America, who's discussing social responsible investing relating to water. We have Alexander Starr, who runs Chess Stars on Saturday, and also Investing with Sasha on Wednesday on the IBM TV network, and Sharif, who actually runs our show out of Malaysia, and also is a PhD scholar at Malaysia. And Sharif, tell us a little bit about your show on Malaysia. What's coming up?
Okay, I think that today I have a show I try to introduce different kind of Asian community, their economical aspect, and how actually Islamic finance working. Let's say today's sessions, I invited International Islamic University deputy rectors. She is a professor and one of the policymaker, Professor Ainul Zaria, because by this way, I think the audience of IBM TV, they will understand is how actually Islamic finance working, how actually the policy of Malaysia and this kind of Islamic countries, they are working right now. And hopefully by this way, we can understand the Malaysian COVID-19 situation and how actually government tackle of the COVID-19 situation and other things. And beside that, I want to add, even we are working with Asian Development Bank. So I think for this water treatment, I want to add few of the things. Hopefully, this economic sessions, we will bring more interesting guests. So the Asian Development Bank, I think with the collaboration of Bill Gates, he is investing on these projects. I think Asian Development Bank has project for water treatment in Philippines, and it was one of the successful projects for water treatment. And when they develop these projects, actually Philippines tourism in the industry start to grow. So this is very important. On the other hand, India, I think Rajanikanth he is one of the superstar, and he is supporting and investing one of the organization. This organization name is Miracles. And this organization actually playing a very good role, and they are developing a system like what wind they're getting water from wind, and they have I think around 25,000 NGO working together with this network and with this ecosystem. And I think Dr. Nasreen Durgadas and many interesting people, actually even IIT, Indian Institute of Technology, they are also working with that, because Asia have water related, actually in many countries actually facing that kind of problem. Even Malaysia has water related issue, Singapore has water related issues. But in these sessions I try to bring all of the interesting discussions, corporation, policymakers, government peoples, even young communities and different cultural activities. Hopefully audience will enjoy.
Oh, what time is that show, Sharif?
Tomorrow Malaysian time 5 p.m.
5 p.m. Malaysian time, which
Yes.
is the Sharif School of Economics, 5 p.m. Asian time, which is 5 a.m. That's what I thought. It's 5 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. I've learned to translate Malaysian time into EST. It's like a completely opposite. If it's 8 p.m. there, it's 8 a.m. here, and vice versa. So this is the Sharif School of Economics, a live show every Saturday, 5 a.m. EST, 5 p.m. MYT, for those who want to learn more about what's going on, which I think is a very exciting area, the Pan-Asian market space, which in the United States, we just don't get too much. Maybe you do in Los Angeles. Are there a lot of TV shows, Thomas, in the LA area relating to Asia? And
TV shows?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not the right person to ask, because I gave up television, I think, 15 years ago.
Yes. and you live in LA, which is like the TV wonderland. So that's kind of interesting. I thought they were all addicts over there on television, but you actually gave it up. That's pretty interesting.
Well, there's not much. That's why we decided to start IBM TV, and we call it Smart TV. Is we're bringing content of education,
That's right.
information, and learning that are real stories from people, not just paid for ad stories. And we're finding it to be refreshing for people. We're getting people contacting us going, wow, I really learned something today. And this is something that I learned with Nick when we were doing Money Masters. I told Nick, I said, the best conversations weren't just our interviews, which were really good. It was the lunch time when we were sitting around and talking just like this, right? Oh, by the way, what are you doing? What have you seen? That's where I gained the most knowledge is when we went to coffee shop or lunch after the interviews. So normal TV, what Nick and I learned when we were in that market is that if you don't bleed, you don't lead. And that's not good information for people. That's not inspirational. And so I kind of gave up TV a long time too. I pick and choose kind of like video on demand what I watch. So I love a lot of educational shows like, learning about the river and the sky and things like that. So.
Yeah, and socially responsible investing seems to me something that's really a new trend. In other words, rather than something
I like it.
Yeah, because when I was studying, economics and finance, I guess I come from the old school where Sasha does. That's not even part of the equation. In other words, you're looking at the dividend history, the fundamentals, you're looking at all the technical analysis. No one looks at, okay, how are they actually performing this from a socially responsible way. But with that, Thomas, that means there are socially irresponsible companies out there. And from what I hear, but we don't have evidence, that Brazil, where they have the rivers in the sky and the Amazon, that they're just destroying the ecology there. Do you know anything about that, or is that fake news?
No,
I have Brazil on right now, so
no, I'm following on that. But in essence, these companies are very quickly destroying themselves. Unfortunately, in the wake of that, they're still having negative effects on the environment and society. But these are dinosaurs, and there are a lot of stranded assets out there. These companies do not have any future. So
yeah, because the thing is that the Amazon basin has a lot of water, and it does affect the global, basically the global ecology. And if they destroy it, there's a lot of, it looks like there's a lot of bad scenarios, but it also looks like there's some bad actors who they don't really care. That they don't mind ripping through the Amazon and destroying the ecology. They could care less in the complete pursuit of profits. But you're saying they're going to destroy themselves. How are they going to do that?
Well, unfortunately, we still have pockets of Gordon Gekko. Greed is good, but again, I think the forces of positivity, will quickly turn the tables. You have companies. There's one company too, I believe, in Latin America, who was involved in another dam accident, which went out of business. You have PG&E in California, who went out of business because of lack of governance and social responsible actions. So these companies basically financially implode through the wrong actions. So there's reputational risk, all kinds of other factors, and that's basically how they lead themselves.
Yeah, and Holm Stoner, actually, who's the chairman of the American International Chamber of Commerce, who's a great supporter of IBM TV, is working with us to get the Global Sustainability Conference on IBM TV. Yeah, so he actually lives in your city in the LA area, and he just loves LA. And I go, LA? I fly over it, but fly into it. I have to do some work every now and then. But I go, I like to see green space, and they don't have enough green space for me.
That's
at least.
True. That's true. But as you said it, Nick, LA in essence is basically a desert land. It has been transformed, and a lot of people are not aware about that. So they do not align themselves, with the natural way things are here. And a lot of people, especially in Beverly Hills, they still like to have their green lawns and water them every day, where it's not sustainable. So we have a lot of controversy here in Los Angeles.
Right.
Wouldn't it be great, instead of watering lawns, we're watering gardens that return food back to us?
Absolutely. I mean, it's common sense, right? It's common sense, Kimberly.
Right. I mean, I look at that, and I mean, I have a garden, but I also have a well. But I'm very careful with my well, because we had our first well dry out when we first moved out here, and so we had to go and find another water table to dig down to. So I learned a lot about water then, and so we're very, very careful here with our water resource. Again, another thing I learned was the trees. They suck out the water table. Nobody has any idea how bad they can. So your garden can dehydrate if you've got a lot of trees around your garden. Not shading the garden, but like even a distance away, it can still suck the water table out for the garden. So
But you're in North Carolina, right?
Yes.
So North Carolina, my fiance actually has a home there as well, and we just came back from Cleveland. So these places are much more sustainable and unaltered. So I sometimes question, California, as progressive as it is, but in the end, there are a lot of actions and behaviors and policies here which really do not serve the environment. Where you go, let's say, for example, to the East Coast or the Midwest, these policies have never been issues because they're so common sense.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is that we have our issues too, right? We have our droughts, and we have our own, and we also have a situation where, like, other counties borrow water from other counties, which is, I didn't know until just like the past 5 or 6 years that we were actually swapping out water resources from one of the rivers. But we have a thing, we don't always abide by it, but it's called the watersheds, right? And we stage and scale them, and you're not supposed to overbuild on the watersheds, right? Like, you should have these rules in every state, but we don't always abide by them. So we have to be careful about the city council members that we get in place, because we allowed certain city council members to get in place, and they started overbuilding on the primary watershed. And then they wanted to overbuild on the secondary. They go, well, the secondary says we can do this. And I'm like, no, because you built on the primary. We don't have, this is the new primary. See, they thought they were going to get away with this, right? By going, well, oops, this was defined as primary, and we built on it. We didn't mean to, but now we're going to build just like we would normally do on the secondary. I go, no, that's not how the game's played. So,
Right.
but it took a lot of fighting. Like if I sat back and did nothing, they would have done it. And believe me, I was not the favorable person in this state because of that. Like people hated me, but I found a small community of people who really understood what was going on, because if they continued to build, then all of our creeks would be full of grease and gas because of the water runoff. So, but this is something people don't think about. Oh, we got to build. This is where our money is. And I like the idea of having an investment program that kind of comes back and protects the water, right? And helps reinvest in these things that we need to do, because it's a hard fight. People don't understand. There are some really crooked people out there who know how to manipulate the laws. Sorry, I got on my soapbox again.
Oh, yeah,
I love it.
Won't happen again. Oh, yeah.
We need more of that, Kimberly.
It's not easy. Trust me. I had hate mails, death threats.
Really?
Yeah, people came and destroyed our property.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, well, first we live in the South, and it could be really bad. But when you're going up against developers and that's their only income, but they even promised, like across the street from us was about 100 acres. And there was a school. Well, at first it was a church, and it was a mega church, and we managed to move that. But a school came in, and we set up an ordinance because there are trees that are over 100 years old, right? So they were supposed to tag these trees and make sure that when the people came in, they would not cut those trees down. Those trees would not be cut down. And I kid you not, I go away on business, not even a week. And I come home and they strip mine the land. Not one tree left standing.
Wow.
I couldn't even find my house. It was late at night. Well, not late at night, but it was driving home. And you know how you do landscape driving? Right? I drove right past my house. I had no idea because they stripped the land so bad.
They still do that in some places.
And they still do that. And here's what I went over there and I raised all holy cane. And he goes, it is cheaper for us to pay the fines because we don't fine that much. It's cheaper for us to pay the fines than to pay our contractors to miss a tree.
Right. There are still issues with that. But
is that it? Now, these are trees that took a lifetime to grow.
Well, yeah, I was in Santa Monica yesterday, and they had some construction there. And by law in Santa Monica, I don't have the code, but there's a code when you have construction going on, and you have trees on the sidewalk. You have to put a fence around the trees so that they're protected during construction work. I mean, that's how extreme it is in Santa Monica.
Yeah, they do have some good rules, but we're also at the hour, so we're going to have to get going. And we do want to thank our special guest.
I hope Thomas comes back. Sasha.
I hope you're going to have me back. I really enjoyed it.
We're going to talk about getting you involved in the Global Sustainability Conference, which is coming up in September. And we also want to thank Kimberly Calhoun, who sits on the board at North Carolina State, Alexander Starr with Chess Stars Investing with Sasha, and of course Sharif with Economics with Sharif. And we'll hope to see you next time on Financial Friday.